Tonight, I want to bring you the story of Jodie Sheeran. Jodie was 15 years old when she was raped in 2004. She called the police. A man was arrested and charged, but the case never reached court. Shockingly, the family never received an official reason why. But a police officer at the time suggested it was because of Jodie's lifestyle. Well, Jodie died in 2022 at the age of just 33. Following her death, her parents have been fighting for answers and campaigning for this case to be reopened, to get justice for Jodie and for the son she had as a result of that attack. I've been speaking to Jodie's son, Jayden, as well as her parents, David and Angela, and I have to warn you that you may find parts of our conversation distressing.
She was your typical young little girl. She loved singing, dancing, karaoke. Just your typical little girl, really.
David, you started to notice a pattern of behaviour with your Jodie at around 13 years of age. The first indications that she was getting involved with older men. Can you talk to me about those early signs?
She said she was going to go to school, but then she never turned up at school. And then at night she would, I'm going to my friend's house, which you think, you know, great. But then it wasn't going to a friend's. It was starting to meet older lads. And eventually she did come out and say, like, Dad, Mum, I've got a boyfriend. And you know, the warning signs start straight away. And we say, well, who is he? How old is he? And I remember he was 25.
And how old was Jodie?
She was 13.
13, 14 at the time, yeah.
I said, oh, no. What you're saying? No, you can't do that, Jode. The police would come to our house, I mean, and the words, we've never forgot the word, what they said to us. They says, let me tell you something now. Your daughter's either going to get groomed.
If she keeps doing
what she's doing, going missing, she's either going to end up dead, raped, and...
Those words, I'll never forget those words.
You know, them words now still haunt me now.
Let's get on to the events of November 2004. This was when Jodie was 15 and she was with a group of young men of Pakistani heritage. She'd been hanging about with that group for about a year beforehand. And this is going to be a difficult story for you to tell, but I know that you really want to talk about it because it is so pivotal to your daughter's story.
It was about 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. I had a knock on the door and 2 police officers came. They said, are you Angela? I said, yeah. They says, we've got Jodie with us. She's asking for a mum. I says, oh, have you found her then? She says, yes, I'm sorry, she's been raped. And then they took me in the room to her, and I've never seen anything like it. She was like covered in some sort of curry powder, and she was like totally, I don't know the words, she was delirious. Basically, they said she'd got that much alcohol in her system. She didn't really know if she was coming or going. And because she woke up and she found her knickers round her ankles, and she got straight on the phone to the police, and she said, I've been raped. And like I say, the police, they made some arrests. Jodie gave all the video evidence. We went to the rape suite, everything like that. We did everything, gave all the recordings, and they did arrest more than one male, but they only got the DNA of one male, and the male was arrested.
The police couldn't prove that he didn't know how old she was, even though she had been in and amongst this group of men for over a year.
And she'd been picked up from school on numerous occasions. So.
this rape charge was proceeding and you had a day in court.
Yeah.
In fact, the day before,
Yeah.
you as a family were going to go to court
Yeah.
to seek justice. You got a knock on the door.
Yeah. The CID and they knocked on the door. Says the CPS have dropped the charges. And that was it. What? Why? Why they dropped the charge? And they come out with, because of her lifestyle. I said, she's 15. She's a kid.
Said she's an unreliable witness.
She's an unreliable witness. What you... I says, please, you've got me. You
Not with
surely can do
DNA,
something
yeah.
about this. I mean, you said to us that you got everything you needed. DNA, videos, you got everything. And now you're telling us now that you're not going to do nothing. And I just, you get that, when you get that sinking feeling, you think, do you know, they bottled it. They bottled it.
Why do you think they bottled it?
Because they were scared of being called racist.
And at the time that all this was happening to your mum, your daughter, child sexual exploitation in Stoke-on-Trent was recognised as a problem.
Yeah.
In fact, they had something called Operation Sorcerer
Yeah.
that had been set up in in 2002. That task force identified the problem and was tasked with educating younger people at risk of being exploited and preventing such exploitation. The 2014 Alexis J report into this in Rotherham highlighted that Staffordshire Police recognised child sexual exploitation was a problem in 2002 and identified 47 victims. However, it's difficult to find much evidence that Staffordshire Police successfully prosecuted cases of child sexual exploitation in the context of grooming gangs from 2002 onward. It's not to say that these cases were not brought, but they are difficult to find evidence of. In that context is your daughter.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an official explanation as to why those charges were dropped? Because, David, what you were telling me there is the word of one police officer who sat in your front room that day.
That was it.
That was it.
We never had nothing off the Crown Prosecution Service, nothing. No letter, no correspondence, no telephone call, nothing.
What they said, that was all we had.
The CPS have apologised for this. You also found out in the course of trying to push once again for justice for your daughter that actually the rape charge essentially wasn't there. It was a sexual offence
With a
charge.
child. Yeah.
Again, where is the paper trail or the discussion with you as a family as to why that lesser charge was being brought?
Yeah.
I've only found that out since I've been trying to seek justice for Jodie. I only found that out in the past few months that the charge was actually lessened.
In the past few months?
Yeah.
And your trial date, original trial date was 2005?
Yeah.
And we're now in 2025?
Yeah.
Yeah.
9 months after that attack, Jodie gave birth to Jayden. And Jayden, I'm very conscious that you're sitting here listening to that story because this is a story you know well. You've known about what happened to your mum and how you came into the world for a long time now. And that it's really difficult for everyone to hear. I just wonder how that is to live with. What is it like to live as the child born of rape, born of those circumstances?
I'm kind of used to it now because it's been so long. So you get used to how things are. Obviously, I know my mum did everything she could for me. When I was with her, I felt nothing but loved. I knew she could do whatever she can for me when she can. Just growing up, when I was living with my nan and granddad, I've always said to them, when I knew what was going on, what happened, I wanted to be with her and stay by her side, so I could, but not like a guard, but like a bit of protection. Just you know what I mean. It's my mum. I want to be there for her as much as I can. So I got used to it. I'd say in our school, in primary school, I was always I was questioning it, who I am, what I am, why am I with this family when
Who's my dad?
Yeah, I'm completely different to these. And my friends used to ask me in primary school, why are you different colour to nan and granddad and things like that. Why don't you see your mum? Why don't you see your dad? But growing up without a dad, it's obviously I've always had my granddad, luckily, by my side as like a father figure, which has helped me out a lot, and as my nan as well as a mother figure. But like more as my mum, I've looked at her like a growing up. It was like a sister relationship, like a brother and sister.
Yeah.
The man that attacked your mum, I don't know how you refer to him.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't have many. I've got loads of words.
Any contact with him? Because as you're fighting for your mum, I would imagine you have tried to establish and get some kind of reaction.
When I found out it all happened, like as I was finding out, I'd go through my mum's phone and things like that. I'd go through my nan's phone. I'd go through all my family's phone. I'd see what they're saying to each other about me because I wanted to know why I was different. And there was a certain I'd seen, and I'd got hold of him without no one knowing, and he was calling me son and things like that over the phone, saying I'm his son. He wants to meet with me and my mum. He wants to speak to me. He basically wanted to meet with me and my mum, but I didn't tell my mum at the time. She never knew I spoke to him, and
again, you're trying to protect her.
Yeah. Long story short, my mum ended up passing away, and I was in like a local taxi around the area, and I was explaining to a taxi driver. I was upset. I was at this time I was broken. Like every day I'd cry. For the first about 3 to 4 months of my mum's death, I'd cry every day. I'd find it hard to cope with things. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do nothing. And I was in a taxi and I was just venting to it, as you do, just trying to get along with someone. And pulls up outside my house and said it was his uncle. And that was when I was like, this is when I realised I'm in a situation here where I'm in the area of the people who have done it. I can't trust people in the area. I can't use taxis to get from certain places because I don't know what's going to happen. Out of nowhere, that's my uncle. And then 2 nights later, I got a phone call of the same guy who called me his son on the phone saying, "You're nothing to do with me. When you're angry, you're going to say how you feel. I've said, I believe you've raped me mum. I'm going to say that."
Sure.
He says, don't you ever say them words to me. He says...
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Something.
And then I saw him a couple of weeks ago, but he didn't even recognise me. I didn't know I was going to bump into him. I went to get some food after work, and I bumped into him, and he didn't even recognise me.
You'll be well aware, just a week or so ago now, Baroness Casey put out into the public domain her findings into grooming gangs, and so much of Jodie's story, there's echoes of it in that report, from the fact that right from the start, she wasn't treated as a child, she wasn't treated as a minor. There's talk of reckless behaviour, being lovesick, being an unreliable witness. She was 15.
I know.
What was your reaction to Baroness Casey's findings? Because, again, you must have seen the obvious parallels with what happened to Jodie.
Do you know, I was because obviously I've been pushing for this for so long, and then when I saw that the Baroness Casey report and that the government are going to hold this national inquiry, I'm like, I'm happy because at last it's out there, and this could be my chance now to get justice for Jodie. Because, like I say, I've fought so long, and but they're on about opening cold cases, like,
The Home Secretary said could be over 1,000.
Yeah, but I'm just hoping that poor Jodie's included, because they just keep telling me she's dead, and there's nothing they can do. Just, it's her word against hers, but I don't want to forget Jodie. I want, Jodie to be a legacy to this. Just because she's dead, it shouldn't mean that she doesn't matter. Yeah. So I'm hoping that Baroness Casey and the government, will look into Jodie's case as being reopened, even though, sadly, she's no longer with us. But she should be with us, because they failed her all those years ago.
Well, my thanks to Angela, David and to Jayden for sharing Jodie's story with us. we put her story to the police and to the Crown Prosecution Service. This is the reaction of Staffordshire Police telling us, our condolences remain with Jodie's family. In November 2004, following an allegation of rape, we arrested and charged a man. However, the case was discontinued at court prior to trial. We met Mrs. Sheeran in both 2023 and 2024 to discuss her daughter's case. One suspect was identified, and while several reviews have been conducted, including speaking to potential witnesses and victims that Mrs. Sheeran provided contact details for, we regret that no new evidence has emerged that would allow us to take further action at this time. Since the early 2000s, we have significantly improved how we investigate child sexual exploitation. We've learned vital lessons, particularly in how we support and listen to young people, and we remain committed to ongoing improvement. We have strengthened our public protection unit and established dedicated child exploitation teams who work closely with partners across Staffordshire. Every report is treated with the utmost seriousness, and every victim is met with empathy, professionalism and respect. Meanwhile, the Crown Prosecution Service told us that race plays absolutely no role in its decision-making, a spokesperson saying the failure in 2005 to explain to Jodie and her family why her case was discontinued was wrong. This should not have happened, and we are profoundly sorry for the devastating consequences this has had. Though the records from 2005 no longer exist, we worked carefully in 2019 to review the available evidence from police files, and a separate prosecutor concluded that there was insufficient evidence to charge the suspect with rape. We wrote to Jodie explaining this decision. Subsequently, as part of our handling of a complaint in 2023, we reviewed the available evidence again and concluded that there was insufficient evidence to support a prosecution for either rape or sexual assault, which we communicated to Jodie's family. The way the CPS handles these cases has changed significantly over the last 2 decades. We have since established a dedicated, organised child sexual abuse unit to tackle these awful crimes and recruited victim liaison officers across the country so every victim has a dedicated point of contact. But we recognise these improvements bring little comfort to Jodie's family, and we continue to offer them our deepest condolences for the loss they have endured.